About the only thing on TV everybody agrees who's talking about President Trump and Mar-a-Lago, well, the only thing everybody agrees on, one thing, is that we haven't seen the most important document in the case. And today, the Justice Department says we're not going to get it. Sure, we have the warrant and the evidence receipt, but the really juicy stuff is in the probable cause affidavit given to the judge so he would sign the search warrant. It's what the FBI knows, what they think that they're going to look for, and why they believe they should be able to search a given place. It would start to answer some of the questions everybody is speculating about, but the Justice Department says it would undermine their investigation. So the speculation, the political spin continues. But her emails, a defense of whataboutism, writes famed criminal defense attorney, civil rights attorney Alan Dershowitz, Mrs. Clinton should take her hat off. Treating like cases alike is crucial to equal protection of the law. Dershowitz is referring to this hat, but her emails on a Photoshopped picture of herself. She tweeted it the day after the Trump raid. Proceeds of hat sales go to Onward Together, a holdover from Clinton's failed 2016 presidential run. Alan Dershowitz is here, famed civil rights attorney, author of the new book, The Price of Principle, Why Integrity is Worth the Consequences. Dare I say, integrity is difficult to find in Washington these days, sir. It's good to see you. Thank you. Start with that. Who is acting better when it comes to integrity? James Comey in the Hillary Clinton investigation, Merrick Garland in the Donald Trump investigation?
Well, it's hard to tell. I mean, neither has distinguished themselves. I don't think Comey should have made an announcement on the eve of the election. It was really in violation of Justice Department policies. And Garland, who is a very decent man, I think, held a press conference or a statement which he said nothing. He should have explained, if you think that we have even-handed justice, he should have explained why they didn't enforce the subpoena instead of going on a full-blown search, when he said that the Justice Department's policies are always to use the less intrusive means. The point is that neither side is today elevating principle over partisanship. And that's what I try to push for in my book. I want both sides, Republicans and Democrats, to push principle over partisanship. Today, the Get Trump movement is so extreme that people like my former colleague, Lawrence Tribe, is willing to tell his former student, Garland, to try to prosecute former President Trump for attempting to murder Mike Pence. That's how far he's willing to go. That may be the stupidest statement a law professor has made in my lifetime, and yet people still go to Trump because he is the go-to person to get Trump. You know, today, getting Trump trumps principle. Getting Trump trumps the law. Getting Trump trumps the Constitution. And, you know, I am not a Trump supporter. I voted for Hillary Clinton. I voted for Biden. I want to make sure that Trump is not disqualified from running because I want to vote against him again. That's my right as an American, just as your right to vote for him. We're not here talking about who's going to win the election. We're here talking about who should be qualified to run under the Constitution.
Let me ask you this. The flip side of whataboutism is, you know, two wrongs don't make a right. It doesn't work on the playground in kindergarten. Somehow now it works in American politics where principle is completely irrelevant. But the law is supposed to be blind to whataboutism. It's supposed to be blind to what happened before and what happened after, apply the facts to what we see now. We don't even know if Trump is the target of this investigation. We don't know if it's him, or we don't know if it's some of his lackeys who packed the boxes, or his attorney who signed the affidavit allegedly that says there was nothing else left at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, I think we know he's not a target. That's a very special technical term. And when you're a target, you're usually told about it. He may become a target. But what I think we're seeing here is a misapplication of the principles of equality, which Garland talked about. Equal treatment, yes. Two rights don't make a wrong. Two wrongs don't make a right. But if you have two wrongs and they're treated differently, that's a third wrong. And we have to comply with the equal protection of the law. Right now, the Justice Department's motto should be due process for me, but not for thee. Due process for a Democrat.
No, I hear you, and I know there's a lot of people who feel that way. I guess I'm wondering, can we make that judgment yet without seeing the outcome of this investigation? If in the end Garland gets up and says the same thing James Comey said, effectively about Hillary Clinton. Is that not kind of equal treatment?
Yeah, I mean, we do have to wait and see, but we have a right to see this affidavit. You know, the general rule is the side that's trying to hide it is usually wrong, and the side who wants to see it produced is usually right. And that's what's going on now.
So you don't put any weight in the idea that this is an ongoing investigation that would compromise sources or methods or whatever the Justice Department has?
Total nonsense, because we know the Justice Department can redact. It can take out the names of sources, can take out the names of confidential informants. But we have the right as the public to know what they were looking for. Is it under the Espionage Act of 1917, the second most repressive statute ever passed by an American Congress, the first being the Alien and Sedition Acts? For years, liberals have railed against the Espionage Act. It's been used to prosecute liberal icons. Suddenly,
now they love it. It goes back to this point. I got to ask you about the book. I only got one question left. Do you find any hope in the book that either side is going to put principle over party?
No, I haven't found any hope that either side will do that. But I'm going to continue to write my books because I think the vast majority of Americans believe in principle and want to see principle elevated over partisanship. 20% are on each side of extremists, but the vast majority of Americans want to see the law applied equally.
Yep.
And one of the reasons why Trump has garnered increasing support is that people who are moving away from Trump said, oh my God, if the Democrats can do this to him, they can do it to us. They can do it to anybody. So from a political view, it is absolutely backfired. But that's, again, not the point. The point is we have to elevate principle over partisanship. There was a time when that happened. That isn't happening today. And
thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.